What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for the first ever Marvel Legends 2-in-1. And what this is going to be is a new way for me to review Marvel Legends figures. In most cases, by the time I get Marvel Legends figures, there's already a bunch of awesome reviews out there. So sometimes I feel like I don't have too much to add to the information that's already floating around, but I still want to talk about the figures. So I think what I'm going to start doing is just taking two Marvel Legends figures, just talking about them real quick, just doing a loose overview, not a real in-depth review about them. But this is basically just a thing to give me an excuse to talk about Marvel Legends figures. So for the first episode here, we're going to feature Jamie Madrox, aka Multiple Man, and Wolverine in the Tiger Stripe uniform. So let's start off with Multiple Man. The first thing I noticed about this figure right out of the packaging is that the jacket is a lot softer than it has been in the past on other figures that use the same jacket. So I think that was a big improvement because a lot of times it's super stiff and it kind of gets in the way. And even though this is still plastic, it's going to get in the way a little bit. It still moves around more than the jackets have in the past. So that's a nice improvement. And also I like what they did with the arms. They are single jointed elbows now, but it looks nicer. It doesn't look all skinny and weird, and it still gets a pretty nice range of motion, as you could see there, and it does have a swivel. So I think that's some pretty nice improvements that they made on the jacket. And one thing that's interesting about this figure is I don't know why they chose to go with this classic uniform unless they're going to give us some more classic X-Factor figures, because the only other X-Factor figures we've seen so far, I believe, are the modern version of Havoc and a more modern version of Polaris. And this Havoc, I think, is from the Uncanny Avengers anyways, and not really from X-Factor. If they're going to give us this version of Multiple Man, they got to give us the rest of the team, you know, Strong Guy, Havoc. I would love Random. Random's cool. I like the way all those goofy 90s characters look, so I'd be down with all of them. But for Jamie Madrox, I do wish that they gave us the more modern version, because that's where I became a real big fan of him when there was that Peter David run where he had like a detective agency. That was an awesome book. If you haven't read that, I suggest go checking that out. I think it's just called X Factor. Actually, it must be volume 3, actually. Yeah, so I think you should check that out if you haven't already. It's a really good book. It has some crazy characters and some crazy situations. But I think that's where a lot of people became fans of Jamie Madrox. So I thought it was interesting that they gave us this version when he doesn't have any other X Factor figures to go with. And in the same wave, they gave us a Magneto that is like a modern version, and in that case more people would have preferred to get the classic version. So I don't know, they made some strange choices with the wave. But other than that, I think that this is a really cool figure. And they gave us multiple heads, which is really cool. It gives you a lot of different display options. We have the head on the right here has like a more angry expression. The head that's on the body has like a smirk, which fits the character perfectly. And then the head on the left is obviously an unmasked Jamie Madrox head, and that looks really nice too. So overall, this figure is pretty cool. It's definitely worth picking up. I'm happy that I have them. I do plan on getting at least 5 Multiple Men. We'll see. Hopefully I could find them cheaper. I'd love to get more, because just the more the better when it comes to Multiple Man. And it is pretty dumb that they didn't pack him 2 per case. They should have known that he was going to be a character that people were going to want to army build. But they went ahead and put Wolverine 2 per case. And speaking of Wolverine, let's get to him. And this figure is awesome. It's going to be one of my favorite Wolverine figures. I think it captures the proportions and the height of Wolverine perfectly. As you can see there, he's nice, short, and stumpy. And this is pretty much the same body that we saw on the Wolverine from the Juggernaut Build-A-Figure wave. And as soon as that figure came out, a lot of people were wondering when they were going to give us a Tiger Stripe, and they got to it pretty quick. So this figure is awesome. It's not as bright yellow as you would think. It's more of like a mustard-ish kind of yellow, but it's not orange or anything. It's yellow enough, but I'm sure that we'll see them put out a bright yellow version later on down the line. And yeah, I have no real gripes with this figure. I think I want to make a comparison video with this and some other Tiger Stripe Wolverines out there. But yeah, this figure is awesome. I thought it was kind of weird that they have the hair kind of sculpted onto his arms but not painted. That was one thing I thought was strange. Other than that, I have no complaints with this thing. This figure is just a really good looking figure. Of course, you have the numbers in the back here, but that, you know, that's just the way it is. And with this figure, it was extra exciting because I was looking for him when I was at Comic-Con. I spent like a whole day looking for him, couldn't find him. The closest thing I came to finding him was one guy saying that he did have them, but he sold them for $45 each. He had 2 of them, sold them for $45, and couldn't find it, so it sucked. And I don't know, yeah, I was really upset that I couldn't find it, because I passed on him earlier in the con when I saw him at one of the booths for $25. So I was really upset that I didn't pick him up when I could have. And then I went to meet a friend for dinner, and I stopped at Walgreens, stopped at one Walgreens, and there he was. So that was awesome. So I was so happy that I got him for retail. And he's just, like I said, he's just a perfect version of Wolverine, especially if your definitive Wolverine is the animated series one or just the one from the 90s. This one is just perfect. I can't see any reason why someone wouldn't like this figure. I love what they did with the shoulder pads. Like, I guess you could say they're articulated. They kind of shift out of the way so you could bring his arm up and it doesn't look weird, and they just move right back into place there. So yeah, just really cool stuff with this Wolverine. And the only accessories that he came with was interchangeable hands. So he has a pair of fists and a pair of clawed hands. And I do like the facial expression. Mine, I was lucky enough that mine didn't have a lot of paint flaws. But what they need to do is just put out a Wolverine figure, just a basic Wolverine figure, and have him include a bunch of different heads that we could use on all these different Wolverine bodies, because it kind of sucks not having a really nice unmasked Wolverine head. The one that came with the Rider series was okay, but it wasn't very good. So hopefully they do something where they just put out a Wolverine figure that has, like, you know, 3 or 4 different heads that you could put on all the different Wolverines. That would be awesome. And he looks great next to the Jim Lee Cyclops, so I'm happy to have both of these guys finally. Toy Biz gave us a couple versions of these characters and these costumes, but I was never a big fan of any of those figures, so I'm happy that Hasbro took care of that and did such a great job with them. And for the Build-A-Figure pieces, Wolverine came with the tentacles for Apocalypse, and Multiple Man came with the, looks like it's the right leg for Apocalypse, and I do plan on building that figure, so hopefully I can find the rest of these guys pretty soon. And yeah, both of these figures are awesome. Like I said, they both came from the Apocalypse Build-A-Figure wave. They were the two that I was most excited about from the wave, along with Magneto. I'd say Magneto was up there. I wasn't as excited about him as I was about these two. So I'm super happy to have these guys. I do look forward to picking up the rest of the wave. And let me know what you think about this format of video. I do have a couple more lined up that I'm going to do if people enjoy it. So I think that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And thank you very much. Peace.
Crispy.